Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the special edition of the Holyoke High Herald Knightrider podcast. We are currently in the Holyoke Public Schools Media Center, and today is November 3rd, 2021. I am Patrick Sweeney. I am the co-editor of the Holyoke High Herald, and I will be co-hosting this podcast today. So thanks again for joining us.
Hi, I'm Conrad Broderick. I'll be co-hosting this podcast as well. I'm the head photographer and the podcast editor for the Herald.
Hi, I'm Annalise. I'm the sports editor along with the co-editor of the Herald.
Hi, I'm Anthony Soto. I'm the superintendent of Holyoke Public Schools.
Hi, I'm Zach Burrow, and I am the teacher for journalism, and I am the faculty advisor for the Holyoke High School Herald.
Hi, I'm Samantha Brennan, and I'm the digital editor of the Herald.
So we are thrilled to be joined by Mr. Anthony Soto, who is our superintendent today. So we're going to do kind of like a roundtable discussion where we ask Mr. Soto a series of questions and kind of get some answers on what's going on in the district. So to start off by having you give us some background about yourself. Where did you grow up? Did you have any siblings? Some of your favorite childhood memories? Some things along those lines.
Yeah, so I grew up here in Holyoke. I was born and raised. Born at Providence Hospital down on Main Street. It's not a hospital anymore. But I grew up primarily in the Churchill neighborhood. So I always say anytime I had to get a gallon of milk or some eggs or bread, I would go to Manny's Market. So I've always, I didn't live in the same spot, but I was on Maple Street. Then the Yellow House where the old Greniers used to be, and then I purchased my first home around that area as well. So I grew up there. I went to Kirkland, which is no longer a school, Lawrence, Peck, and then I graduated from Dean Tech. So just a lifelong Holyoker. I do have two siblings, so I have a younger brother and an older brother. And then I grew up in a foster home. My mom happened to take foster kids in since I was a younger kid. So we've seen about 200 foster kids go through our home. One of them still lives with my mom. I'm wondering when he's going to move out, but he's 41 years old and he's still living with my mom. But he's really helping her out. So yeah, we've had some great times, and 120 of our foster students had graduated from Holyoke Public Schools. So that's something that I'm really, really proud of for my mom to see that many kids go through the Holyoke Public School system.
That's awesome. What positions have you held in the past that you feel have aided you in your position?
So, in the past, I was in Springfield Public Schools for about 10 years as the budget director, and as part of my role there, I worked really, really closely with Superintendent Warwick and his leadership team on some really important initiatives, and just working as closely as I was with the superintendent and working with all of the department heads, knowing what challenges they faced with resources, what things they prioritized in their budget. A budget's more than just numbers. You can really tell a lot from a budget. You can tell where a district's priorities are and where a department's priorities are, where their challenges are. And I think that really helped me prepare me for the superintendent seat. And then most recently, I've been in Holyoke Public Schools for the last 5.5 years as the chief of finance and operations. So when I was in Springfield, I was just doing the finance. And when I came here, I started doing the operations as well, which was transportation, food service, technology, and facilities management. And just working every day with principals, helping them, understanding their challenges, and working really closely with the superintendent, and has really helped me to take on the superintendent seat.
What were some of the reasons that made you want to become superintendent?
Honestly, I'd never thought that I would be a superintendent.
Quite an honor.
That wasn't something that was in my purview. I had reached kind of the pinnacle of my career. I started off in public accounting. I felt like there was no meaning or purpose to what I was doing. Felt empty. I was getting paid good money and learning a lot about work ethic, but I didn't feel like there was purpose to what I was doing. And then when I got into school finance, it really gave me a sense of purpose. I felt like, wow, this is great. I get to do stuff that I like to do, and in the process, I'm helping students, helping teachers, helping building leaders. That sense of purpose is what really kept me there. But I got to the highest position in that field at a very young age, and I honestly loved working in Holyoke. And I wanted to retire here. I want to retire here. Initially, I was tapped to be the receiver when Dr. Reich was leaving. The state was encouraging me to apply, and I was in a new superintendent program called Influence 100 for aspiring superintendents, and this was something that I had worked with Dr. Reich on. He's like, look, you can do this, Anthony. I think you should do it. So I joined that program, and when they tapped me the first time to take on the superintendent job, I said, I don't feel like I'm ready for it. I really think that for the last 5.5 years or 5 years that we've had a strong focus on fixing the systems and getting the foundation laid for Holyoke Public Schools to be able to take it to that next step and have a real sharp, strong focus on instruction. And I thought that, we need to bring somebody in that has that vision and can lead us through the instruction. And they respected my decision. And then they happened to bring on somebody, and that didn't work out. And I saw how much damage I saw how much damage could be done in a leadership role, and I couldn't let that happen to Holyoke Public Schools again. So the second time they asked me, Anthony, I really think you're ready and we want you to do it, I didn't hesitate, because I didn't want them to pick somebody else that could potentially do as much damage as what we went through. That was a tough period for a lot of us, and we're still trying to pick up some of the pieces that were broken during that period.
Yeah, well, you have an interesting perspective going through the system, being a student at Dean. So, I mean, that's an amazing progression to become superintendent.
Yeah.
Having been a student in the system.
Yeah.
I don't even think I've seen that in other areas, in other districts in the area. I don't think I've seen a student become a superintendent from that same district.
Yeah.
So that's incredible.
Yeah, it's definitely an honor, and what I will say to those that would say, hey, he's never been a teacher, he's never been a principal. There's so much involved with the superintendent role, and I have so much confidence in our building principals and the cabinet and leadership team that I have around me, that this isn't about Anthony Soto, the superintendent. We have a whole team that's going to support the entire system, and together we can do this.
Great.
So after saying that and talking about how you got into the position, what can you remember about your first day on the job as a superintendent?
My first day, I think I went through 2 or 3 charges of my phone because my phone was just off the hook. There was so much overwhelming support from people. I don't know how they even got my number, but that's the one thing I remember about the first day. It was just the overwhelming support of people calling and saying, Anthony, thank you for accepting the position, and finally we have somebody from Holyoke that understands Holyoke that's going to help lead us. And to me, that's the one thing that I remember most about the first day is the support.
Do you think that support is a drive that's going to keep the process of improving? I suppose, the state receivership, do you think the people are going to encourage you to get some more of this stuff done and try to bounce back from the last superintendent and what he did?
Yeah, we have so it's not only just the last superintendent, but many of us, everyone's aware. We went through a pandemic, and what we're seeing in schools right now, we can see the trauma, we can see the some of the loss of instruction that a lot of our students had faced, and it's going to be a long road ahead. This isn't something that we're going to recover from in 1 year. The damage that the pandemic has done over the last couple of years is one that we've really got to come together on and map out a long-term plan on how we're going to address this, and we're going to have to chip away at it. Really has done some damage to some of the outcomes that the state looks at across the entire state, not just Holyoke. A lot of the almost every academic outcome has seen a decrease, and that's just going to take a while to bounce back. But I'm confident that the work that we're doing right now, we're partnering with Relay and developing our leaders to become instructional leaders and to provide the right amount of coaching to our teachers and the right feedback and reviewing data and monitoring progress. I'm comfortable that all of those things that are happening right now over time is really going to have an impact in Holyoke.
Adding on to that, what do you think else can happen in areas of improvement that are COVID related? What else do you think that we could do? I've been
meeting with a lot of student groups. I've been meeting with a lot of staff groups. And one of the things that the pandemic has had is it's had an impact on the behavior that we're seeing in school and the support that some of our students need. That's an area that we really need to focus on and do better. Particularly I think because of the pandemic and the trauma that some of our students had gone through and just being isolated from their peers, learning how to do school again is like, some people describe it as going back to the basics. Some of our freshmen and sophomores, the last time they were in school, they were 8th graders, right? So it's like we have 2 freshman classes where, 10th graders, where the last time they were in school, they were 8th graders, and we're asking them to be 10th graders. And the same thing with our 2nd graders. The last time they were in school, they were in pre-K. And we're just trying to teach them, like, some of the basics about how you are supposed to act in school and some of the things that they missed over the last couple of years. So those are some areas of focus that we really got to come together on in the next couple of years and address, and I'm confident we'll get there.
And also you briefly touched on the topic of like remote learning. So what are some of your positives and negatives that you have seen being a superintendent, both remote and now in person?
I think one of the biggest positives is obviously how students and staff have just adapted to the use of technology. There's meetings that we have now that we're doing virtually that are just as effective as they were, and you're not losing travel time. Meetings with folks from the state, for example, and in the past it was unheard of to have a Zoom meeting. So anytime I wanted to go talk to the commissioner, I would have to drive 2.5 hours or something like that, and waste 4 hours of my day in the car. And now, for a 15-minute meeting, now it's like I can check in with them for 15 minutes, and that's acceptable.
And avoid the mass spike.
Yeah, and avoid the mass spike. So those are definitely some positives, and even our students, like, the fact that some of our younger learners are able to log into Google Classroom, know where their assignments are, those are some skills that they learned that they didn't have before. And then on the negatives, I think socially is where we've seen a lot of struggle as a result of the pandemic. So I talked about the behavior that we're seeing right now in some of our schools and the trauma that it's had. Some of our students have lost family members and have been isolated for a long time, and they're just learning how to socialize again. I think that has had a negative impact on that. And then our academic outcomes. I'm not putting too much weight on MCAS because of what we experienced over the last couple of years. But when you do look at our scores in ELA and our scores in math, our students did have the pandemic had a negative impact on those outcomes for sure.
So So about like the behavioral issues and like the academic negatives, what is your entry plan to initiate a fix to all this?
Yeah, so the entry plan really is about getting feedback. We've been at the same strategic plan for the last, I would say, 4 years. So it's pretty customary for every district to take a look at their strategic plan every 4 years or so. And then when somebody new comes in, the good thing about me, or the good thing, I think the advantage that I have is that I've been here for the last 5 years. Normally somebody comes in brand new and they're oblivious to everything that's going on around them. I've been here in Holyoke for the last 5.5 years while I was working in a different capacity, but now that I'm getting out to schools and I'm talking to teachers, talking to students, talking to families, all of that feedback that I'm getting is what I'm going to use to develop a strategy for the district going forward. So it'd be silly for me to sit here in an office and develop a strategy without really getting input from the people that matter the most, like yourselves, the students and the staff. So that's what the entry plan is all about. I've been at every single school, had a focus group of students and a focus group of staff. We've held 3 community meetings. We just had a staff meeting, virtual staff meeting yesterday where we had a lot of our staff attend. And it's just all about getting feedback before we start, understanding what the issues are, understanding what our strengths are, and then developing a plan forward.
So we've been in receivership since the 2015-16 school year. So do you know how much longer we'll be in it? And I know it's hard to actually have a year in mind that we would be out of receivership, but are there any plans to get out, and do you know about when that would be?
Yeah, there's no timeline. The only other community that we can kind of benchmark ourselves against is Lawrence. They've been at it for about 11 years now, or 10 years. We are in year 6 right now. The reality is we've had a lot of gains in some of our data. So our attendance data has improved. Our chronic absenteeism has seen an improvement. Our graduation rates have seen an improvement. Our dropout rates have gone down. But when you look at our academic data, we need to do a better job there, and that's what's going to get us out of receivership. I want to get out of receivership. I will tell you right now, I want to get out of receivership because what that means is that our students are doing better and performing academically better than they were before receivership took over. So it means that we're doing a good job. In order to do that, we do have to come together. I feel like there is this tension and this narrative of let's get out of receivership, let's get out of receivership. And what I'm trying to do is yeah, let's do that. But in order to do that, we have to work together to make sure that our students are getting a better education. Most people that say let's get out of receivership, my immediate thing is okay, what's going to be different when we get out of receivership? What are we going to do differently? And I truly want to understand that because we don't need to wait. If there's better ideas out there that people are waiting for receivership to end, I want to know about them because I don't want to wait. If there's better ideas where we can make Holyoke Public Schools a better place, let's start that now. And that's what's going to get us out of receivership.
So what are some things that we as students can do to better the process and get us out of receivership?
I think be engaged. This group here is very engaged, and I think your feedback and your input is going to be important. That's why I've been meeting with students and trying to understand. Some of the things that I hear is, my teacher spends a lot of time with this one student because he's acting out, and I'm sitting here for 20 minutes, and I'm not, I'm losing out on 20 minutes in instruction because he or she is taking a long time with that. I'd love to hear some solutions on how we can address that, but just doing your part, I think, would be a start. Like, being kind. We just did a kindness challenge across the city. Given all the behavior issues we're seeing and the negative attention we see on social media, we're asking, everyone in the community to come together and be kind and be respectful and get back to the basics, so that our teachers can do what they need to do. And as a student, I guess if you have the influence to, where you have a friend that may be experiencing some challenges, get them the help that they need, so that they can get the education that they deserve, you can get the education that you deserve. I think taking a back seat to that could be, it could be some approach, but if you do have influence and you know somebody who's struggling, just help them out and get them the support that they need. And reach out to, either a counselor or a building administrator, and like, we're here to help.
So you mentioned that the students play a role in having the teachers be able to do their job. Do you have any plan to get more staff in the building? Because I know we see a lot here. A lot of teachers don't have enough time to go do their own jobs because they're either on hall duty because we don't have enough admin, or they're subbing for different classes. So I know that's been a big issue with teachers not having the resources to do their job.
That's a great question. We and a great point that you made. We do have this thing called the Student Opportunity Act. So the way schools are funded. So Holyoke is funded about 88% by the state, and then only 12% by the city's local tax dollars, just based on what they can afford. But those two components make up what the state says is the minimum required spending by law. And we're funded at the minimum required spending by law. A bunch of smart people got around, and that formula that determined what the minimum is for the student demographic hasn't been looked at since, I believe, 1987 or something like that. So, and a lot of things have changed in that time. So in 2016, a bunch of people got together and they said, look, this formula isn't working for communities like Holyoke, and we need to fix it. And there was a lot of advocacy and fighting around it, and the state finally said, you know what, we're going to fix that. And what that means is that Holyoke is going to receive more resources, but they're going to phase it in over the course of 7 years. So this year happens to be year one. Every year we should be looking at additional resources in our regular funding to be able to add more staff. This year in particular, that issue is perpetuated by what's going on across the nation. There is a shortage of staffing. It's not for a lack of resources. We've tried to get the supports out to schools. We have 41 paraprofessional vacancies right now. We have positions that have been vacant all year. For the first time ever, I wouldn't say ever, but for the first time during this receivership, we allocated a ELA coach and a math coach to every single school. We allocated an academic intervention teacher in ELA and an academic intervention teacher in math at every school for those students that may need more and those staff that might need more support. But many of those positions are just vacant. Like we're trying to get folks to come into the field and work, and that's been a struggle. Not just in Holyoke, everywhere.
And it's not just in the school district. It's literally is everywhere.
Yeah, it's nationwide. There's a nationwide shortage of educators, and it's not for a lack of resources. Like I said, we've been lucky enough to benefit from COVID relief money. We saw a significant amount of money that we're going to have 3 years to spend, and we did. We posted all of those positions, and I don't think anybody foresaw what we're seeing right now with the staff shortage. But we're doing everything we can to try to recruit and fill those positions, and we're doing everything we can to support our teachers. But I think long term, that Student Opportunity Act is going to give us the resources that we need to be able to do what you're talking about. And I think the market has to get better. It can't get any worse than it is right now. Like we have to bounce back.
Anybody else have anything they want to add? You want to throw it out to the audience, everyone? Anybody have any thoughts, any questions they want to ask Mr. Soto? No? Is that everything?
I
We
think
covered
that's
all our
it.
points?
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you for having me.
I guess we'll wrap up then, yeah. So we thank you all for joining us once again, and we thank Mr. Soto for giving us a part of his day, and we had a great conversation with you, so we really appreciate it. So that'll be all for today from the Holyoke Public Schools Media Center, and once again, we thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a great day.
Have a great day, guys.